All right, let's dive in. You shared quite a few sources focusing on actions and policies tied to teams around Elon Musk and Donald Trump.
That's right.
And the thing that jumps out right away from this material is this phrase they use: wide-reaching global consequences.
Exactly. So the plan for this deep dive is really to unpack these sources together. Just look at what they say.
Okay.
We'll pull out the key facts, the insights presented in the material you gave us. The goal is just understanding the reported impacts.
Right. Strictly sticking to the sources, no outside opinions, no taking sides on what's presented.
Precisely. Just the information provided.
And it covers a lot of ground: environment, labor, social media, taxes, climate policy. So where do the sources start us off? Environment.
Yeah, environmental impact first. The sources highlight what they frame as a contrast with Elon Musk, the clean energy image versus reported personal carbon footprint from things like jet use and space operations.
And there's specific data mentioned, right? I saw a reference to a study suggesting Tesla's avoided emissions claims might be, well, significantly overstated.
That's in there. Up to 49% overstatement, according to the material cited. It definitely raises questions, at least within the context of these sources, about corporate environmental reporting.
Okay. And how does that connect to, say, the Trump administration information in these documents?
Well, the sources also discuss deregulation during that time. One piece cites an estimate that rolling back certain pollution rules could, potentially, lead to over 25,000 extra deaths annually
Yeah.
from air pollution.
Wow, that's a stark figure presented there.
It is. It's presented as an example of policy-level environmental consequences.
So we're seeing individual actions, corporate reporting, and broad policy impacts covered. What about the next section? Labor and worker safety.
Yeah, the sources shift focus there. They detail reported safety issues at Tesla factories.
Anything specific?
Yes. A specific incident mentioned is a worker electrocution in 2025. The sources state this led to OSHA finding the company for safety oversights.
Okay, that's quite pointed.
And there's more mentioned, like reports of chemical safety issues at the Texas Gigafactory. It seems the sources are trying to show the ground-level worker conditions reported.
Got it. Moving from the factory floor to the digital space, social media and censorship.
Right. The sources look at Twitter X under Musk. One point highlighted is a claim that 83% of content removal requests from authoritarian regimes were reportedly approved.
83%, that's high.
It's presented as a significant number,
Hmm.
and the material pairs this with reports about journalists and flight tracking accounts being banned.
And the sources connect that to his stated stance on free speech.
Yes, some of the material suggests this seems to contradict a free speech absolutist position. It highlights the complexity of it all based on these reports.
Okay. Next up in the sources, tax practices and financial ethics.
This part delves into Donald Trump's tax filings. The sources cite the report that he paid $750 in federal income tax back in 2016.
Right, that figure got a lot of attention. How do the sources explain it?
They link it to things like aggressive deductions and debt maneuvers described in the material.
And does it connect to broader policy?
It does. The sources reference the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. An ITEP report is cited, suggesting this law helped enable record-low tax bills for some corporate donors. That's the connection made in the source material.
Interesting how they tie the individual finances to the legislative changes there. What's the final major section? Climate policy rollbacks.
Yeah, the sources talk about environmental rules being rescinded under the Trump administration. One source mentions a figure over 100 rules rolled back.
Over 100. And the reported consequence.
According to the material, it enabled higher pollution, potentially worsening climate effects.
Is there a specific example given?
Yes. The sources mention the lawsuit by 21 young people. They sued the administration, alleging that promoting fossil fuels violated their rights. That's presented as a direct challenge to those policy rollbacks.
So putting it all together, these examples from the sources seem chosen to illustrate these wide-reaching impacts, right?
Exactly. From the environment and workplaces to social media, taxes, and climate. It connects decisions by powerful individuals and teams to these reported consequences across different areas.
Okay. So this deep dive, just scratching the surface really, has pulled out key examples from the provided sources on all those fronts.
And understanding findings like these, straight from the material you shared, is framed as pretty important for navigating, the links between power, policy, and outcomes today.
So maybe a final thought for you, the listener, based purely on this material we've discussed. Given these diverse consequences reported across different spheres, environmental, labor, social, financial, climate, How does seeing these connections, as presented in these sources, change how you think about accountability or maybe the global reach of decisions made at the top?
Yeah, definitely something to mull over based on what these sources lay out.